everyone, today I'm making a chicken pot pie for the first time, and I'm beginning with the crust. I found this recipe online, and I'm quadrupling the recipe because because my pie pan is going to be big, and I want my crust to be thick, so I quadrupled the recipe. But the original recipe is 1 cup of butter or margarine. I used margarine, 2 to 3 quarter cups of all-purpose flour, 6 tablespoons of milk or water. I used water, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and 1 tablespoon of salt. And cayenne pepper is optional. I didn't use it. And I quadrupled this recipe. Disclaimer: this is what I did wrong. This is why the recipe low-key failed. I added too much salt to the crust, and I followed the recipe, but maybe the person who did the recipe made a mistake because I quadrupled it. I quadrupled the whole recipe, but I think the tablespoons were too big. Maybe that person meant to write teaspoons of sugar and salt, but it was tablespoons, and that's what I did, and it was way too salty, so that's why the recipe low-key failed, and now I know for next time. So I would suggest you don't put sugar, you don't put salt in your crust, or you put a really little amount because you don't really need it. The filling has enough salt for everything. And also another mistake that I did is put too much butter. I think I put way too much, even if the recipe said 1 cup, and I didn't even quadruple it. I just used 2 cups of butter, but maybe that was too much. So next time I'm just gonna eyeball it and make it less than the recipe says because it was way too much butter. Here I was trying to add more. I tried to add more flour so the flour and butter could balance. But at the end, it made a difference. But I could have added more, and it could have helped a little more. But next time I just won't add that much butter. Now I'm adding the spoons of water and mixing it into the dough without mixing the dough too much. and then I put the dough ball inside and I wrapped it around saran wrap, and I put it in the refrigerator while I did the next step for the filling. Next, for the filling, you need the ingredients are 2 large boneless chicken breasts, 3 stalks of chopped celery, 2 medium chopped carrots, 2 small red potatoes, 1 medium onion chopped, 1/3 of a cup frozen peas, 1/3 cup of green beans, 1/3 cup of corn, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, 3 tablespoons of margarine or butter, 5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 to 2 cups whole milk, 4 cups of chicken broth, 4 tablespoons of sour cream, 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of parsley flakes. Right now I'm cutting the onions. I'm cutting the onions and carrots, and then I'm gonna cut 2 potatoes. And yeah, for this recipe, I didn't use celery or green beans because I didn't have any, and instead of sour cream, I substituted it with cream cheese. Here I was cutting the potatoes in really small pieces, but next time I think I'll leave them the size that they were, a medium size, because when you're cooking it, it has a it stays in the pan for a long time, so it becomes really cooked. And if you don't want it to be like mashed potatoes, and you want to see the potato in its cube form, still I suggest you keep it a medium size so it doesn't turn into mashed potatoes when it's in the pot cooking, because it's gonna stay in there for a long time. I put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and instead of vegetable oil, and that much butter. I don't know how much that is, and I let it melt. And then after I added the onions and the carrots, and also the potatoes. When I put the oil and the butter, the heat was on medium on 5, and then when I put the vegetables, I put the heat on 8. And when it started to cook again, to cook and be more tender, I put the heat on 5.5. And in the recipe, it says to add 3 chicken bouillon cubes, but I didn't have that, so I put 3 cubes of Maggi cubes. And then I added 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of black pepper and 1 teaspoon of parsley flakes. Oh, and I also put 4 cloves of garlic that I minced. I put 4 cloves of minced garlic. At this step, with the parsley flakes and garlic and everything, it was smelling like shawarma potatoes. If you ever, if you know what I'm talking about, those potatoes that have parsley flakes, and I don't know, they sell them at shawarma places sometimes. That's what it smelled like, and it smelled really good. And now I'm adding in 4 cups of chicken broth. The one that I used had a flavor of roasted garlic, and it was 30% less sodium. Right after that, I used 2 cups of table cream, and I put 1/3 of flour and mixed it, and then I added more to make it like heavy cream, to make a texture of heavy cream, so it can make the sauce thicker. When this was boiling, it was smelling like a bechamel sauce. Not sauce, but sauce. It was smelling so good. Added the peas and then let it cook for about 5 more minutes. And then I I added the cream cheese. I added 1 tablespoon of cream cheese. Now we wait for the chicken to cook. Now the chicken is cooked and I'm adding in the frozen peas, and then I'm gonna let it cook for 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to take it off the stove and let it cool down before I put it in the dish to put in the oven. Now I took the dough out of the fridge and I'm gonna roll it so it can fit into the dish. The crust kept crumbling. This was a mess. I was trying to put it back together, but it wasn't working. Here I was adding more flour to the dough so it can be more solid and stop uh, ripping apart so easily because of the butter. So I added more and more flour to try to fix it. You can see that the adding more flour helped, but it was still flaking, and every time I rolled it, it wouldn't stay together. So uh I found a way, and I hid it instead of rolling it. Realized that it was too small, so I went to go make another batch of dough for the top crust. At this point, the new dough was more like a pizza dough instead of a pie crust dough. Oh well, it's okay. It will be better next time. After cleaning up my mess, I took an egg. I only used the egg yolk. I like my eggs with yolk. Please don't burn my toast. I used the egg yolk and I put uh, two tablespoons of water, and then I brushed it on the top of the chicken pot pie, and so it can give a brownness, a golden brown look. So I brushed it on, and then I cut 5 little holes so the hot air can escape. Now it's ready after about 1 hour and a half in the oven at 350 degrees, and I let it cool for 10 minutes before cutting it. The crust is a little bit hard. But it tastes good. Don't put, I would recommend to not put salt, or to just put a pinch of salt, because you don't need it. And the amount that I put is kind of a lot.